Welcome to the I Need Coffee and Better Ideas podcast, where we caffeinate your brain with the freshest takes in news media.
And then, the display technology. And so how are you going to consume news media? I think it's absolutely inevitable that looking down at your phone to consume media potentially will change, right? And you'll be looking at it up here. We have to start thinking about that now.
And welcome to the show. Today we have a very good friend in the industry, Mr. Jonny Kaldor, CEO and founder of Pugpig. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I just saw the view from where you are. You're in Brooklyn, I understand?
I am on the 38th floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day as well.
Oh, great. I'm on the 6th floor in Oslo. It is a beautiful day here as well, although our day is coming to an end and you barely started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, welcome to the show. We've had a few conversations. We meet each other all the time around the world. My first question is always, because I'm really interested in particularly in your story about, how'd you end up where you are today? Both, you, Pugpig, how'd you end up where you are?
Yes. Okay. I can do that. Well, let's start with me, but I'll keep it brief. I guess most pertinently, I used to run kind of new technology development at News UK, so the British arm of News Corp, and spent a number of years there. For example, putting the first paywall in front of Times Online. It's a big project at the time. Everybody said it was a crazy idea, but it seemed to have worked out in the end. And I got into a project which was James Murdoch's brainchild called Alicia, which became kind of relatively known as a project with great ambition, but sadly never saw the light of day. But the idea was to build a B2C offering cross-industry. And this is back in 2009, which effectively looked a lot like Apple News Plus does today. It was bringing together newspaper and magazine content into a single consumer offering. He had come from Sky TV, so was very into the idea of bundles, having kind of a base pack and then bundles. For me, it was a great idea. Yeah. And so you would have your base pack, and then you might buy a sport bundle or a finance bundle or a fashion bundle and so on. And so we built this technology. I mean, John and I, my co-founder, who came onto the team as our kind of lead architect, built a team of about 130 people, built a lot of technology. We were 6 weeks from launching and sadly got kind of silently killed. And meanwhile, the Daily, we were kind of a parallel project with the Daily, which listeners might know, which was Rupert Murdoch's other big punt at the time. Yeah, the Daily lasted for about 18 months. So yes, it saw the light of day. It was a big product. It was beautiful. It was kind of iPad first news. Had a huge team. But again, it just didn't unfortunately stand the test of time. Right. Anyway, so we built this platform and we kind of solved the problem of how do you get content from tons of different publishers and tons of different formats and deliver it in a way that's mobile first. And so we thought, hey, we could do this ourselves, start from afresh, but do it as a B2B business. And that's effectively what we did. So we built Pugpig in 2011 as a mobile publishing platform, a kind of white label mobile publishing platform, and went to market. And, it's been, what do we know, almost 14 years of hard slog since then, just, publisher by publisher, to the point where we are today. We have about 150 publishers, about 450 brands on the platform. And we are still effectively what we were back then, which is a mobile-first publishing platform.
I know I've asked you the question before, but not on the podcast for obvious reasons. The name Pugpig, because it sticks out. It sticks out, mate. So you gotta explain.
Oh God, it's an awful story, really. So the crux of what we were doing back at the time, I mean, it is kind of pertinent to our whole technology approach. was to take a different path to what was going on. So at the time, Adobe had DPS, Woodwing had their solution. It was heavily focused on InDesign workflows, which made sense, right? Because they wanted to power the next generation of magazines. Right. So they wanted the same people who were building these print products to be able to use the same tooling. But it was extremely labor intensive. I mean, really, really hard work. And then on the other side, you had these PDF replica solutions, which had started as web kind of desktop products and then were moving into mobile. And we just thought that wasn't the right way to do it. We thought, both John and I have kind of come up through web publishing, and we thought the right way was to have a hardcore CMS at the core, right? And take content in whatever format we could, put it into a structured database, and then deliver it as a mobile-first solution. And at the time, Apple, if you were doing that, Apple kind of, they didn't insist, but they would suggest strongly that you use their core text libraries to render type in an app, which, you know, they look great, but they're extremely limited from a technology standpoint, and they're proprietary. So we thought we'd take a different route, which is mobile first, completely native user experience, but wherever we're delivering content, we would do that using standard web technology, so using HTML and all of the, you know, plethora of stuff you get with that. And at the time, back in 2011, you know, that was tricky because HTML was not, you know, not as powerful as it is today. So convincing an art director that you can render or create a beautiful version of their product through HTML was a little bit of an uphill struggle, but we did get there. Anyway, so there we were. We were kind of, you know, native technology with web, you know, alongside web technologies. So we considered ourselves a hybrid. And being techies, we kind of, our marketing minds started with the technology, which was obviously completely stupid. So we listed, I don't know, 30 different animal hybrids.
Okay.
And Pug was taken, the domain, but Pugpig was free. And after kind of saying it to ourselves over and over it multiple times, it kind of sounded like the least stupid brand name. And it's, I don't know, it kind of seems to work.
Yeah, it does. I will say for branding purposes, I knew of the company well before I met you. And it was one of those tech company names that I just remembered. So, and it stuck out from the rest of the crowd. Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of smiley and it has
for sure. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. Now, I'm going to ask a dumb question because I know it's dumb, but I'm going to ask it anyways because it might be that, you know, there are other dumb people out there just like me who are listening. Why apps, mate? Why? Like, why would I as a publisher focus on apps?
I mean, first of all, it's not a dumb question at all. I think it's a question that everyone should spend some time thinking about, you know, if they are going in this direction, because it's not always a slam dunk. But I think it depends on, you know, it depends on your business model, the relationship with your readers, your brand, your content, how often you publish. There are a lot of different factors. But I would say ultimately, if you have a brand that your readers or your audience have some sort of affinity with and have a long-standing relationship with and want to engage with and have some loyalty to, and if you're publishing content regularly enough and in a predictable manner, then apps can work very well for you. So I'll start with a counter example. You know, if you're a kind of mass market, ad-driven, you know, massive audience business, which is driven from people bouncing in and out of the socials and off search, and you know, your whole kind of revenue model is about scale, then apps probably aren't gonna help you in that endeavor. What apps do is they strengthen the relationship between a brand and a reader because they're there on the home screen, and if you do it well, you create habit. You create that habitual behavior, and not the kind of bad habit that social networks are accused of creating. But, you know, At its best, a daily or weekly appointment with the brand when it's right there in front of you. And, off the back of that, then you get to drive up engagement, you drive up loyalty, you create advocates, you get more data, you strengthen the relationship that you have with your reader. So as a tool, it tends to be certainly traditionally used as a retention tool or a kind of a value add for a subscriber. And the numbers tell you all you need to know. If we look across our portfolio of publishers at the moment, particularly something like news media publishers, you get on average across our portfolio, you're looking at kind of 20 plus sessions per month on average per user. And those session durations get up to 20, 25 minutes on average per session per user. We have one app which was getting 55 sessions a month, 9-minute sessions on average across the entire user base. So the level of engagement you get is really quite remarkable.
Yeah.
But you need to work for it. Yeah. In the early days, there was that kind of, well, we'll just stick an app up there and people will download it and just start using it. And it's just not that simple, because the one thing about apps is they're appalling at discovery, right? There's no kind of Google search which is just going to land you into the App Store and suddenly pull down an app because you were searching about the best lawnmower to buy. This is the thing. An app. There's a lot of conversation in recent months about the return of the home screen. And as more and more publishers think about how they can reduce their reliance on third parties like search and socials, the home screen has become, for part of that, core part of their engagement strategy. And apps are similar. It's up to a publisher to think about how can they drive traffic to their home screen, to their apps, in order to then kick off that relationship, which then, help, again, continue to drive up engagement and increase the loyalty and closen the relationship with users. So
sorry, go for it.
Well, I was just saying. So I think we've gone on quite a journey, and we meaning kind of us as a supplier, but the whole industry, over the last 10 years, where apps there was all this excitement back in 2010. Then there was the kind of the valley of despair, where people who weren't doing it properly just saw no returns whatsoever.
Yeah.
But what you've seen over the last few years, particularly in news media, is it's a key part of an engagement strategy for any news media company. And New York Times kind of took the lead, where Mark Thompson famously switched the order of priority from newsroom to web to app. He flipped it over and went app, web, newsroom in terms of order of priority. And I love to see that, right? Because it means that people can see how well that can work, and obviously the market takes notice and follows suit.
Yeah, I just met with a publisher today, fairly well-known brand, and just talking about different things that are problematic for them. And among them that she listed was how their app seems to be not helping them with subscription, but rather actually working in favor of churn. And it's really painful for them, because they seem to be stuck a little bit with their app situation. And it was just an interesting, like the way she talked about it, you could tell that, they've been looking into it, but they'd not found the reason for it. And they're struggling to see what are some of the quick wins they can make. One of the flaws that keep happening is that, I get a push notification, I click on that, and then I'm sent to the last article I consumed, not the article that I was getting a push notification for.
Right.
That's a frustrating experience from a user point of view, right? Simple things like that. For me, this, I do have some insight, right? The subscriber value, like to your point, right? You can build a loyal audience, and, you come back, you have those moments with the news brand. Are there any? I don't know how to ask the question exactly, but do you think that there's anything pertaining to apps that could help with the pricing point? And I'll explain why I'm asking that. Because a lot of, many of the publishers out there, and one of my colleagues just subscribed to a local newspaper in the US, cost them $1 for 6 months, which is ridiculously cheap, right? And it's almost as if they're expecting me to not get any value out of my subscription. Is there anything that you can offer, or have you seen any examples of what you can offer in app differently to perhaps drive the price point for subscriptions?
Well, look, the first thing I'll say is product is ultimately important, right? So, and product in terms of not just the content, which obviously is the core product that
right.
any publisher is creating, but the user experience as well. And so, if you're offering a product that simply doesn't work properly, then yes, there's no surprise that people aren't gonna stick around. And actually, we wrote a retention report earlier on in the year, and I don't know if we can link to it on this podcast or something like that. There's some cool stuff in there. We did it with some partners of ours, Manifesto and In Digital and Piano, actually. And one of the things we were looking at was what are all the kind of factors that help drive retention. And product was, in one of those kind of famous quadrant diagrams, product was right in the middle,
right.
Absolutely the most important thing that you actually fundamentally have to get right. So that's the first thing I would say there, and obviously that's all we do. We're completely focused on product. In terms of your pricing question, it's tricky. It's tricky because I don't think in and of itself an app can be can help you charge more for your content. What it can do, though, is it can create a user experience that allows access to that content and potentially exclusive content and potentially other things such as utility, such as access to maybe editorial team or access to experts and so on. So there are certainly a lot of publishers we work with think about that. How can they go on a journey? And I know Ren Turiano, who heads product at Gannett, was talking about this the other day as well, and we've been thinking about this a long time. How do publishers move from delivery, kind of mass delivery of content, to something more? And I think, particularly for magazine publishers, actually, that thing that is more is often utility. There's a lot of magazine publishers, will have some sort of niche or some sort of specialism where utility plus content is actually more valuable than just the utility alone. And I'll give you an example. So men's health or women's health, for example, they have a number of things going for them. They have great content. They have access to, amazing experts in the industry. And then they can fold in utility alongside that. Now, so a men's health app, we'll have training plans and so on, which will offer utility. They will be nothing like as sophisticated as Nike Plus or some of these other pure utility apps.
Right.
But they wrap in the content, they wrap in the access to personal trainers. They then take all of that and they bundle it into a subscription, which has considerably more value than buying the monthly magazine. So I think that's the way in which you drive up value. For news media, I guess it's a little bit trickier.
Games seems to be a popular thing.
Games is a popular thing, but again, if you go back,
they're not only available in app, are they? So,
well, that's right. Again, I think it doesn't have to be about the app. The app's just a nice place to bring it all together.
Right.
I guess it's about having the courage of your convictions around the quality of your content, ultimately, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's publisher commercial editorial decision rather than ours. But the ones that are winning from the very beginning, I guess I can talk about News UK because I was there at the time. The key there was, apart from kind of campaigns where you're clearly going to go out and offer price reductions, but don't diminish the value of your content by giving it away for free or giving it at cut costs. I mean, when we launched Times Online, we went from, and this is a long time ago, so the number's going to seem small, but it was 25 million monthly unique visitors back in the day. This is 2009, and we put the paywall on. It went from 25 million to 0, and then just slowly started building up again. But crucial to that whole strategy was you're paying for the Times of London. You're not paying for some digital kind of cheapo version. You're paying for the journalism of the Times, and that's that strategy has worked for them, for the Journal, for the Times here in New York, and so on.
We've made it through most of this podcast without bringing up AI.
No,
and I'm not going to bring up AI on a large scale here, but I think you made an interesting point earlier about how can, from a content delivery point of view, what are sort of the mechanisms that you think will come into play over the next, 1 to 2 to 5 years that can potentially make a difference in the content delivery space?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because we talked about the 3 areas, right? We talked about content creation. People are talking about that ad nauseam. We talked about discovery, which is the interesting conversation right now, I think, around search and how that's morphing. Delivery or consumption, that's kind of where we live and play. And I think ultimately big shifts in content consumption or content delivery are further down the line. Obviously, AI will play a part in kind of personalization and what content is delivered to individuals based on their consumption patterns, and that's been happening for many years now.
It's been around for a while.
Yeah, but it's only going to get more sophisticated in time. I think for us, actually, what's more interesting, and it's not really AI at all, it's about new technology, for example, display technology, augmented reality, glasses, which I know has had a number of kind of failed starts. But that's only because the technology isn't there yet. I mean, I think we're all pretty comfortable now with the fact that it's coming. And I think what glasses will do, or whatever, the physical manifestation becomes, whether it's implants or something else. But for now, let's talk about glasses, with speakers in the ears and all that sort of stuff. I think they do a couple of things, right? One is they change the relationship between you and the device. I think when you're talking quietly to your glasses, it's different to kind of, talking to Siri over here and being slightly uncomfortable and slightly embarrassed about it. But just, a silent word with your glasses, I think will be different. So I think voice-driven interfaces will just become a little bit more natural. So
I think younger generations as well are going to be driving that. I mean, I see my oldest son, he doesn't type on his phone. He only talks to his phone.
Right.
He's very comfortable with that.
Yeah, and I think also kind of Gen AI certainly has helped it with that interaction. I mean, when you play with ChatGPT and just the way in which you can talk to it completely unstructured and get no sense out of it, the way that Siri doesn't do yet, but obviously we're promised it will do in the coming months. So that will be one. And again, in a way that smart speakers they could never do that, right? Yeah. And there was all this hullabaloo around smart speakers, and then everyone was hugely disappointed. But I just think this is going to be a very different relationship. And then, the display technology. And so how are you going to consume news media? I think it's absolutely inevitable that looking down at your phone to consume media potentially will change, right? And you'll be looking at it up here. So what does that mean from a user experience standpoint? Yeah. And we have to start thinking about that now, even though the development environments are only just starting to emerge.
Yeah, but I see, we have a couple of VR headsets at my house, and you can already see that, the changes YouTube made to how I consume on the VR glasses. It's great. I mean, it's right there in front of me, and I still haven't seen any great news media outlet apps that have come into that app store yet, which I think is a missed opportunity by traditional media. Like, I'm sure there may be someone who dabbled, and I'm going to get feedback on this that I'm wrong, and this, that, and the other have already done it. But I at least haven't seen many examples of that.
No, and I think that's okay, because these things are so nascent. I have the Vision Pro, and you'll have read, was it yesterday or today, that they've cut production on that quite heavily.
Yeah.
The technology is unbelievable. I mean, the eye tracking is extremely accurate. So you can see how they're creating new models for human computer interaction, which is amazing. The device itself is completely unusable. It has absolutely no
very low,
really, apart from panoramic photos and movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, and we have to believe, I think, as developers, that it'll come down to the manufacturers who are creating the operating systems and the developer tools to enable us to do this when the time's right. So I'm not too concerned about the publishers not getting very far yet. I don't think the tools are quite mature enough yet, but it's coming.
It's coming, for sure.
It's our job, so it'll be our job, in the same way that we do with apps, to get these tools into market quickly, so the publishers can then take advantage of them, without them having to get their hands dirty with this probably quite mucky technology, I suspect, for the next few years.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting to the end here, Jonny, and first of all, I'm sure we can do this again, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in London next week for your customer event.
Yeah,
that's looking very promising.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're coming, actually. It'll be a really good day. I don't know if this publishes in time for that, but it'll be accessible online as well as in person. So if anyone wants to join, they can let me know. Or
I'll certainly do what I can to bring as many people as I possibly can to that event. I'm really looking forward to it. Final question is, and I think I have a pretty good feeling what the answer will be, but how many cups of coffee or tea do you have per day?
I like the way you anglicized it with the tea.
Well, we had a Brit on, and I asked the question about coffee, and he said, well, I don't drink coffee, but I certainly drink a lot of tea. Yes. So I've since learned, when I have Brits on, I need to slightly change the question.
You do, particularly as I'm an Englishman in New York, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm on 2 so far today, and that will probably be my lot. So I'm going to go for 2.
Okay, 2 that's on the, let's call it, better side of things. We've had everything up to, I think, 10 cups is the highest answer we've had so far, which is a lot.
Yes, that's not healthy.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on, Jonny. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me on.
Great. Thank you.